All right, so hopefully you've given this one a try. This example is identical to the example 2. I just wanted to give you some practice here on these. So let's go through these. First one we're looking for the probability that a z-score is less than 1.85. So the z is less than 1.85 standard deviations from the mean. So I know the mean and the standard normal distribution curve is at 0, right? So this is 0. So 1.85 is, maybe about here. Okay, 1.85. And what I'm looking for is the area, right? The area under the probability density function is the probability. So I'm looking for this area. So if I want to find the probability that z is less than 1.85, I just need to look it up on the table. And luckily, the table is set up that way to give you probabilities for z-scores less than some value. So I'm just going to go here to my table. I'm going to look for 1.8. All right, I'm going to come down here to 1.8. Let me pick up my highlighter. So here's 1.8, and I want 1.85. So I'm going to go across the table until I get to 5, which is actually the 6th value over. I don't know if I can get yeah, I can get this on there, right? So it's this value right here, right? Because this is the 0.05. So this is the value that we want right here, 0.9678. All right, so let's go back to the problem we had here. And so I can just write down what I have. What the table told me was that 0.9678% or not percent would be 96.78% of the z-scores are below 1.85. All right. So that's just pretty straightforward table lookup. The next one we're asked for a z-score greater than negative 0.85. All right, so again, the mean is 0, so this is net less than 0. So let's say that it's, I don't know, here, negative 0.85. Okay, now what we want is this area, right? We want this area under the curve. That'll give us the probability of a z-score being greater than negative 0.85. But my table gives me probabilities for z-scores less than some amount. What I can do, though, is use the symmetry of the table. I can use the symmetry. So let's say here is 0.85, and I know that this area below 0.85 is the same as the area above negative 0.85. Okay, so what I'm going to look up is this red area, but it will be the same. So I'm just using the symmetry of the table. So the probability that z is greater than negative 0.85 is equal to the probability that z is less than 0.85. And that is the way the table is set up, and so I can look that up. 0.8023 if I look that up. Or I can use the fact that the entire area under the curve is 1 and just calculate complementary probabilities. So the probability that z is greater than negative 0.85 is also 1 minus the probability that z is less than negative 0.85. Okay, I can look that up. And so 1 minus, when I look that up, I get 0.1977. And that also gives me 0.8023. You get the same thing either way. I'm not saying you have to do both of these ways every time you do it. I just wanted to show you that you can do it either way. All right, let's look at the next two. These involve probabilities between certain values, certain z-scores. All right, so let's sketch it in first. So 0.67, let's say, is about here, 0.67. It's positive, so it's above the mean. Let's say this is negative 0.84. And we're looking for the probability that we're between those values. All right, so the way we're going to do it is we're going to take the upper value, the probability, we want to find the probability that z is less than 0.67, and then subtract off the probability that z is less than negative 0.84. Okay, so we just need to look up those values then. So we get 0.7486 when you look the first one up, and 0.2005. Okay, and then the difference between those two is 0.5481. All right, let's do one more. We want to know the probability that the z-score is between 1.55, let's say that's about here, I don't know, 1.55 and 1.95, 1.95. Okay, so we're just looking for that area. Now, eventually, you're not going to need to graph these every time. Once you get the concept down, you will realize that I just need to take the probability that z is less than, 1.95 minus the probability that z is less than 1.55. But I think it helps, when you're first learning this, to kind of visualize what you're doing. You're taking that whole area below 1.95 and subtracting off the area between 1.55, and then what you're left with is the stuff between 1.55 and 1.95. All right, so look these things up on the table, and I got 0.9744 minus 0.9394. So I could take the difference between those two values. I get 0.0350. Okay, so there you go. And I will meet you in the next video.